Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments. And if you're considering buying or selling in the Villages, then this is the show for you. Every week, we take an in depth look at what's happening with the real estate market here in the Villages. You'll get an idea as to the differences between the different regions of the Villages. You'll get an idea as to long term trends. I'll try to keep my personal opinion out of it for most of you because I deal with both buyers and sellers. But you can form your own opinion. I will certainly give you enough data to do so. If you find this type of approach valuable, please consider using us. If you're a buyer, we'll show you how you can feel confident that the deal you're offering is a good one. And if you're a seller, we'll help you to determine a listing price that's the highest price you could reasonably hope to achieve. A couple of things to note. We produce this show every Monday. Make sure you check the date to ensure you're getting the most recent information. If you wish to contact me, please reach out to me at either DavidisinFlorida.com or at DavidIsInFlorida@gmail.com. Be happy to help you, be happy to answer any questions you have. And if you would, please consider liking and or subscribing to this channel or video. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. And finally, this is a very important point. The Villages has two separate real estate marketplaces, the MLS, which is the multiple listing service that you're familiar with from other areas around the country, and the VLS, which is the Villages' own internal listing service. The VLS is the only marketplace on which they offer new homes, but pre-owned homes are available both on MLS and on VLS. And for sellers, they have to determine which marketplace they wish to list on. But for buyers, you really need an agent who can help you see both VLS and MLS homes. If you don't see either marketplace, you are not seeing everything for sale here. For that reason, if you're considering buying here, it's vital that you be aware that there are two marketplaces and that you compare values on both. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at what's happening this week. We start every week by looking at the yield on the US 10-year note. The 30-year mortgage most closely tracks this government bond rate. It's normally about 3 percentage points higher. So if this rate is going higher, so are mortgage rates. And if this rate is headed lower, so are mortgage rates. On this graph, every bar is 1 day. You can see back about 3 years, the trend does seem undeniably to be higher, although short-term volatility is obviously to be expected. I don't know if the residential real estate market is reflecting these higher rates. I know the commercial market is. We'll wait to see if the residential market ever shows signs of being affected by it. So now let's take a look at the Villages itself. I'm going to start by zooming in on this map. We're showing you the location of the Villages on the map of Florida. On this map, which shows you all active listings on the MLS, each circle represents an active listing. The size of the circle represents the size of the property, and the color of the circle represents its price per square foot. We're going to zoom in on the Villages further to the Lake Sumter area, and I want you to pay close attention to the difference between these two maps. This first map is showing you all active listings with the color of the circle representing the price per square foot and the size of the circle representing the home. If I change those criteria to only reflect the price and the size, you can see that a lot of valuable information can be lost. And if you look again at the same information but with price per square foot, it seems evident that deals are much more readily apparent using this method. And now that you understand the map we're looking at, I'm going to show you the four regions of the Villages as I've delineated them. The first is the area that I'm calling the north. Keep in mind we're looking at size and price per square foot on these maps. Darker the circle, the lower the price per square foot. The northern area is everything south of 42 and north of 466. It includes Spanish Springs. The next area is the area I'm calling the Mid-North, which is everything south of 466 and north of 466A, which includes Lake Sumter. The third area is the area that is north of 44 and south of 466A. This area includes Brownwood Town Square. And the fourth area is everything south of Highway 44. So let's start by looking at some long-term trends. This is the total number of listings on the MLS this week. They number 465. Last week there were 469. The same week a year ago there were only 327. Currently prices in the villages range from 151,900, which was originally 239,000, to 1,949,999, which is the same price at which it was originally listed. Here's a long-term chart where we keep track of the median list price per square foot for all active listings on the MLS. This week, 261.10 a foot. Last week, 261.59 a foot. The same week a year ago, 259.26 a foot. The market really hasn't done much for a year now. And here is what seems to be a visible sign of distress. If you look at this graph, you can see this is the third highest reading that we have ever had for this measure. This week, the median time on the market for all listings is 57 days compared to 53 the week before and only 52 the year before. It's worth noting that this is almost 3 times longer than only 2 years ago. So let's start analyzing the differences between the regions of the villages. We're going to start by looking at the villages as a whole. You're looking at the smallest, median-sized, and largest home, least expensive, median-sized price, and most expensive home, and the least per square foot and the most per square foot for the villages as a whole. On the left, you're seeing the number of listings at each price point, and on the right, you're seeing the number of listings for each size of home. So now that we've seen the villages as a whole, let's compare the different regions. We'll start with the north. This week there are 205 homes active on the MLS. The smallest home is 875 square feet, the largest 3,986 square feet. The least expensive home is 152,000, the most expensive $1,003,000. The least expensive on a per foot basis is $138 a square foot, the most expensive 448 square feet. Let's see how that compares to the other regions of the villages. This is the area that I referred to as the Mid-North, 149 active listings. Least expensive home, 255,000. Most expensive, 1,375,000. Price per square foot ranging from $197 a square foot to $634 a square foot. And the size of these homes ranging from 875 square feet to 4,216 square feet. This is the Mid-South, 46 active listings currently, ranging in price from $300,000 to $1,949,000, ranging in size from 1,156 square feet to 3,875, and the price per square foot ranging from $210 to $543. And the final area is the South, where there are 65 homes on the MLS, ranging in size from 969 square feet to 2,654, and ranging in price from $240,000 to just over $1 million. It is interesting seeing the number of listings in the South exceed the number of listings in the Mid-South. Just a couple of quick summaries on the listings. Here you can compare the differences between the regions on a side-by-side basis. You have the number of listings at each price point on the left for each of the regions, and for the villages as a whole on the right. And here we're looking at the size distribution. You can see how many homes are being offered at each of the sizes of homes shown in the villages. We came up with this chart to try to forecast what short-term directions in the market might be, and we're looking at how many new listings occurred in the last week and how many homes went pending in the last week, giving us some idea as to increase in supply and increase in demand. What you're looking here is weekly data going back over 2 years. This week there were 39 new listings, last week 40, last year only 23. Pending home sales this week 40, last week 39, the same as last year. And looking at the graph, the black line is pending home sales, the red line is new listings. The graph is a 4-week average, but if new listings exceed homes going pending, then obviously inventory will increase, and conversely, if pending home sales exceed new listings, it will decrease. This graph is a summary of the previous graph. We're looking at the difference between new listings and homes going pending. I've drawn a line at the 0 line to show you where number of new listings equals homes going pending. This week, one more home went pending than was listed. Last week, one more home was listed than went pending. But last year, the same week, 16 more homes went pending than were listed. Let's take a closer look at the homes that went pending last week. The graph is showing you a 4-week average. The numbers you see are actual weekly data points. This week, the homes that went pending at 252.85 a foot, identical to the price of last week, but down noticeably from the 256.44 median price for homes that went pending a year ago. This is another graph causing concern for sellers. We're looking at the median price change from the original list price for the homes that went pending last week. It was a 6.29% reduction compared to a 5.41% reduction the previous week, and even more than the 6.25% reduction that was being offered a year ago. I'm going to add this horror show of a graph which does not reflect the villages, but which reflects the nation as a whole. What you're looking at is an index representing the number of pending home sales. We are now as low as we saw during the worst of the COVID pandemic, and with interest rates possibly heading higher, it's hard to imagine that the number of home sales will be increasing. Now let's look at the homes that sold and closed last week. They numbered 38, up from the 31 of the week before, but down from the 52 of the year before. Prices ranged from 125,000, that was originally almost 175,000, which is a 28.5% discount. The highest price home that closed last week was 1,150,000, which sold without any discount at all. If you want to compare the number of sales this year compared to previous years, I've generated this graph where you can see 2022, 2023, and 2024. For the same week in 2022, there were 42 sales, in 2023, 52, and in 2024, 38. This is the price per square foot realized on the homes that closed last week. 254 a foot, identical to the 254 of the week before, and virtually identical to the 253 of a year before. Although looking at this graph, you can see that over the last 2 years, the price per square foot on sales has been gradually trending lower. I don't always include this graph, but I thought I should because we saw a dramatic increase last week. We're looking at the median time on the market for the homes that closed over the last 7 days. It was 52 days, which is more than twice as long as the 23 days of the week before and the 22 days of a year before. Keep in mind, this graph is showing you 4-week moving average, whereas these numbers are actual data points. And now we'll take another look at all listings. This time we're looking at what percentage have reduced their asking price from the original listing price. This week, 53.55% have improved from last week's 54.47. This is very much improved from the almost 60% who had reduced their asking price the same week a year ago. And this is another graph that might be turning down as we head into the slower days of summer. This is the median decrease for all active MLS listings in the villages. Last week it was only 4.39. Last year it was 4.47. But it certainly appears as if sellers are still having to price their homes competitively here. That is this week's look at the village's real estate market. If you're a buyer and you're trying to find a good deal here, please consider using our data-driven approach to validate your choice. And if you're a seller, I hope you'll consider using our data-driven approach to justify your asking price. We'll be happy to help you. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Please reach out to me at either DavidisinFlorida.com or DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. I'll be happy to conduct research for you personally in any price range or geographical area that you wish. I hope to hear from you. Take care.